So I want to talk to you guys about my recent test drive of the Kia EV6 GT rear-wheel drive and the Kia EV9 rear-wheel drive Advanced Plus package, as it's called here in Europe. First, with the EV6, the smaller of the two, had a recent update for the 2025 model year that I think looks great, front and aft. Very similar to the Mustang Mach-e rear-wheel drive overall in terms of experience, but I definitely liked it better. I think it's quicker, it's a little bit more agile, it's good looking, a little bit better looking perhaps inside than the Mach-e, but not quite as good looking as the Mach-e outside. Overall, it had improved utility with an actual usable frunk that you can fit more than a cell phone in, maybe a purse, but not a grocery bag, maybe a small backpack. But overall, the EV6 GT rear-wheel drive felt pretty heavy. You really felt it on speed bumps and tabletops. It might have been the suspension settings or the ride mode I had it in, which I didn't play with that much. A little bit with sport, normal, and my drive. I skipped eco mode. Nobody wants that. I was really excited. It has an actual sunroof, so that was cool to see. Reverse mode, the camera was a little bit stressful with all the guidelines, red, yellow, and green, and sort of a three-dimensional plane. But I really love the heads-up display. So this is a fantastic vehicle that I think is worth getting excited over and would be a good daily commuter, I think, and certainly competitive with the Model 3 and the Model Y, although the key was a little bit large for my liking and would definitely fill a pocket, but it seems to have a great deal of functionality. So definitely worth checking out. Would test drive it again. Okay, now I want to talk to you about the EV9, the rear-wheel drive Advanced Plus package, which had a sunroof, which I loved. The seats were noticeably more comfortable than the EV6. It sits up noticeably higher, which is no shocker there, but it was not a dramatic departure from the EV6 in terms of driving position. It seemed almost as quick as the EV6, but though it is slower on paper. It's spacious, no surprise there. It's a 3-row SUV. I love the haptic touch bar for changing modes on screen, which was great. A good mix of screens and things that you can tweak, like air conditioning vents. Did I mention it has a sunroof? Love that. It's expensive, $65,000 fully loaded. It gets up to 70 grand plus very quickly. That being said, it handled really well for such a heavy vehicle. It took corners and roundabouts like a champ. It turns well. I mean, it's almost EV6-like on that front. The suspension is much more forgiving than the EV6. And the heads-up display works great. Love that for getting around. It's not as good looking as the EV6. It's kind of this clunky, modern exterior, a little bit plasticky, but it's still a good-looking vehicle and modern. The blinker camera is great on it. I love that. The seats move easily in terms of utility and getting in and out. The improved frunk, it's just a dash larger than the EV6s, I think. Can't really hold much, but it does hold something. Great trunk, but limited underfloor storage area. It is definitely worth considering as a family road tripper. I think this can haul your kids, your dog, and all your bags and groceries. And I think it could be a great daily commuter, and I'm seriously considering it, and I think others should too. I think it's got to be making Tesla and others sweat. All right, I'm currently taking the EV6 GT rear-wheel drive out for a test drive. I'm gonna see how this performs and whether I like it. Definitely good looking. I'll let you know how it goes. All right, so I've been driving the Kia EV6 for about 5 or 6 minutes now. It's a GT rear-wheel drive, not the all-wheel drive. It's comfortable. It seems reasonably quick. It's not, it's not light on its feet. I'm driving in an area where there's a lot of speed bumps. and what I think I would call them tabletops. And they are, you definitely feel them in the GT at least. There's also a fair amount of nannying on the speed limit, so I get constant beeps when I exceed that. That's probably a setting change that's relatively easy. But I don't feel cramped in here. I do feel like it's a decent car. I'm loving the heads-up display. I really like that. It makes me miss it on the old Mazda CX-9. But anyway, I'm going to keep driving and, you know, continue to experience the car. And next, I'm going to try the stereo. Okay, it would appear that there are some sort of relaxing themes that you can play while you're driving in here, built in. I've got birds chirping and harps playing and mandolins strumming. It sounds pretty good in the Meridian audio system, but I'm still digging to find regular radio. So it's the software is not that intuitive, but I'm not used to a Kia either. So I've just completed my test drive of the Kia EV6, and I got to say I'm pretty impressed. While I do feel like the vehicle feels a little bit heavy, that might have been from not trying all the drive modes. I definitely put it in normal and sport, and then my drive, which I don't know what it had set as default. But I mean, it is reasonably quick for sure, very quick. And I think it handles pretty tightly going around traffic circles. I only got it up to a little over 60 kilometers an hour. So I didn't take it out on the highway, but, you know, around town, it handled really well. And it seems to be a pretty fun car to drive. It would take me a while to get used to the software, but I definitely think it is worth continuing to consider, and certainly shopping against the Mach-e, which the dealer was not particularly positive about. But anyway, I think that's just, you know, dealership bias that you would expect. But one of the exciting things about this vehicle is how quickly it charges from, you know, 10 to 80%. You know, it seems to be a very reliable vehicle. It seems pretty good looking. I like the update on the 2025. I didn't really like it at first, but I do think it's better looking than the old model. Anyway, lots of fun to drive, and now I'm going to try the EV9 and see what that feels like. One thing I want to show you guys, this car has an actual sunroof. It's not the quietest thing in the world, but it is a real sunroof, which is exciting. I do love a sunroof. All right, here we are. It is frozen outside, but I have just gotten inside the EV9 loaner from the Kia dealership here. And I gotta say, it is noticeably more comfortable than getting into the EV6. It is also a much larger vehicle, but I'm excited to see a real sunroof above me and try this thing out. Okay, I gotta say that the EV9 is surprisingly, despite its size, really fun to drive and super comfortable. Much different experience going over the bumps and tabletops and speed bumps in the EV9 versus the EV6. So definitely a cushier, more comfortable ride. The seats are more comfortable. I think everything in general is much larger, but you know, if you're used to the EV9, it would be very easy to get used to the EV6 in terms of the buttons and layout. But I am really enjoying it and wanting to stay out with it a little bit longer than I did with the EV6. So I'm going to continue to experience the vehicle and, you know, run it through its paces. All right, so the EV9 is so much bigger than the EV6, but you wouldn't think driving it. I thought it would feel massive in comparison as I drove it, but it really doesn't. But I mean, you look at all this room, I mean, it is insane. Anyway, really fun to drive, really enjoying it, and I highly recommend test driving it. All right, I'm in the very rear seat of the Kia EV9, and I have got buckets of space as a 5'11" adult. I think any kid would more than comfortably sit back here, and certainly any adult for a short trip that's, you know, 6 feet or under. But anyway, really impressive. Got adjustment buttons here on the sides for moving the seats. There's charging areas, cup holders, really, really nice.